I'm here with Lee Fowler ahead of Saturday's top of the table clash with Walsall Wood. But before we get into that, I'd like to have a little bit more in depth of what your role here is, especially with you came into this side as manager when we were top of the league. We'd already had Steve Chettle here. Martin McIntosh came in, kept us top of the table. You've come in as well. It was top of the table. From the outside, it might look quite easy that you've already been given a squad. You're already top of the league. What is the reality of it, of your job when you've got that? How the pressure on you to keep the club there must be quite hard.
Yeah, it's quite difficult really in some aspects, because obviously you've got your own views and ideas of how you want to play. The lads have been guided by two other coaches how they want to play, so you have to be mindful in terms of changing too much too soon, or getting your sort of your own blueprint on the team. And it is quite sort of, the pressure side of it is not a problem in terms of maintaining that sort of level. It's more like sort of little discipline side of things, and building relationships with the staff who are already in, the players getting to know you, you getting to know the players. So there's a transition period of the 2-week period, which I said, the Cov United game, the what game was it?
South Normanton
and Boxing Day, and then the Stourport game, which I never had no time with them, so I asked them to play a little bit different against Cov United, and it didn't work. We reverted back to how they had been playing, and it's took me a good couple of weeks to work out what they can do and what they can't do. And the only way they can do is go and play football. So I've learned that. There's some games I've got it wrong, and some games I just let them and got it right. So it's difficult. It's not pre-season. You can have sort of 6 to 8 weeks with them and get your philosophies down, or whatever they say. I don't like to say philosophies, but just get some ideas and principles down really, rather than philosophies, because people talk about philosophies and it goes out the window and game to game. So what you come up against in pitches and weather. But yeah, as I say, I'm looking forward to the end of the season, and hopefully we're in the higher league and I can have a good sort of pre-season with them. Yeah,
cause you've come in as like Martin did, as a new manager, and you've come into a group of players that are very tight knit, aren't they?
Yeah.
How easy or difficult was it for you to sort of gain their trust, for them to, because it's got to be hard for a player as well to look at another new manager coming in, for you to gain their trust and their respect. Was that quite a difficult thing?
Not for me, more probably for the players really, and the staff. Players, sort of probably the lads who were in the team, and McIntosh probably would have thought, all right, great, I'm in for the rest of the season. New manager comes in, all of a sudden their emotions, they're completely out of sync because they don't know what I'm thinking. So from my point of view, it wasn't too hard really. There's a few little things I did with the lads. I bought them all a drink after the Cov United game. I'm quite open with them and have a little laugh and a joke with them. I'm not sort of a tense, distant manager, so they built a relationship quite quickly with me. And as I said, as soon as you start winning, it all goes out the window anyway. So the first week we had Saturday, I think it was 3 games in 7 days. I didn't really have any sort of connection with anyone. And then listen, I got to put my own ideas on it. I had a week's training with them. We went and won 3-1, and then 3-0, and then we won 6-1, I think it was, or 6-0 and 3-1. And that's when the team sort of bought into what I was doing, because the wins will then give you that sort of the confidence in me.
Yeah, and the players have obviously, you can see it, especially, I think Long Eaton United was, I know we've talked about the away form, it was a bit of a sticking point, wasn't it? But Long Eaton United away, I think that was a massive turning point, wasn't it? Where the players, I think it was, everybody sort of seemed to, you aligned with the players aligned with you, and we saw that with the performance, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. Listen, with derby games it's quite difficult really, because you have to get the balance quite right. If you go too hyped, you get over aggressive, you get red cards. If you go too relaxed, they end up wanting more winning tackles. But I just felt the week building up to it, we built it up to be a big game. Make sure we win our individual battles. The game was perfect. It could have been a lot more. I think the injury sort of derailed the actual bigger scoreline than it should have been. But the biggest point for me, and I think it was the turning point, was the melee. It's the first time I questioned them against Romulus in terms of what it meant around me. There was Lytown was the same question again. Some of them go missing away from home, and then against Long Eaton, since that melee, I've not questioned them once in terms of they've been there every tackle, every throw, and they've been in it together as a team. And that's the biggest thing for me, that if they play as a team and not individuals, then they will win games more than they'll lose, and that's pivotal for me. That Long Eaton game was pretty a turning point, like you say.
Yeah, and you can see the bond that the players and the team spirit, especially amongst this bunch of players. And it's one that I haven't seen for quite a while at this club. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've had great team spirits before, but at the moment there just seems to be that little bit extra, I think, as well, because we're top of the league and we've hit a rich vein of form just at the right time, haven't we?
Yeah, the team spirit's great. I think it happens that there's a lot of local players, it means more to them really than you got loads of travellers in. Most clubs don't really want lads travelling in from Manchester, Birmingham, and there's a good group of lads. I think they socialise with each other outside the field. And it reflects on the training pitch, and if you put a sessions on with them, you can't always do sort of detailed work. It has to be a bit of fun and games like we had on Tuesday, build that morale, build that spirit, and as I said, winning games, it builds that unity anyway. So every time we've come from a loss, they've bounced back, and I think that's what the team spirit does for them.
Yeah, and we'll move on now then to Walsall. We're talking about the team spirit, which will take us into the game against Walsall Wood. A massive game for this club, isn't it? And for the title, we win, and there is, I know we haven't liked to talk too much about it, but there is one hand on that trophy, isn't there? Lose or draw, and Walsall would have still got a chance to catch and overtake us. So what have you been saying to the players in the last few training sessions?
For me, sort of, we had them in training Saturday. We had a good sort of physical session. We went into the classroom and we sort of built up a mentality in terms of us versus everybody, and they really grasped the fact that sometimes this season things have gone against us, especially since I've been here, and they're starting to realise now that it's us versus everyone else, and that's the mentality I'm going to bring into them for this game. We're not going to sit back and hope for a draw or 1-0 loss. We're going to go to win the game, and they're a good team. They're well drilled. All the games I've watched them. I've had them watched against Loughborough. Analysts went and watched them and broke them down for me. I've seen them myself. Darren Barfield's similar to myself, had a good career, and he's taken everything he's probably learned into Walsall Wood. So they're set up well. They've got a few threats, but they've got a lot of weaknesses. Exactly, probably they'll be saying the same about us. Where they were at the Romulus game, and there was a few bits and bobs which come back to me from third party, should we say, which makes it a little bit more sort of meaningful for me as well, because the Romulus game wasn't great. We lost 2-0. It was a cup game, but to say we're a poor team, which come back to me, was a little bit naive. So there'll be something in it for us, and as you said, we win the game, we go and prepare right over the weekend, and we got Dunkirk on the Monday. We're going to try and win that game. We prepare right again, and we're going to try and win the Loughborough game. But Walsall Wood, if they win, it's still in our hands. We have to beat Loughborough and Dunkirk, which will be tough games, but if we beat them two and beat their scores, we can still do it that way. So there's a lot of pressure on Walsall Wood. I don't know if they're going to change the way they play. I don't think they will. They haven't done recently. So the emphasis is on them to come and win the game, and how good our lads are going forward. As you said, we're in a rich vein of form. Everybody's scoring now in sort of, it's not just Reeves who's scoring, people are scoring from all over, and we've got pace in the team. So if they're going to commit men forward, we can commit men the other way.
Yeah, and we are hoping for a big crowd on Saturday. It's our last home game of the season, so how big a part do you think the crowd can play? I mean, if we have got a big crowd here, our players do seem to thrive on that at home, don't they? And can the crowd make a big difference on the day?
I thought so, yeah. I think when we had the big crowds against Casler and Shepshed, I think they really drove the lads on, and we won 3-0 and 4-1. Last week against Highgate, like I said, I don't know if they had too many drinks from Kev Cross in the bar, but it was a little bit subdued, and I think the game felt like an end of season game with nothing on it. I know we won comfortably at 4-1, but I'd like the fans this week especially to get right behind the lads and make it difficult for Walsall Wood, make it uncomfortable for them, be loud and proud, as I've said before in the programme notes, and let's have a cracking game. It's going to be probably one of the biggest attendances in the sort of the lower levels, so to say, right up to probably the Conference North. So it's going to be an interesting game, one which both set of teams will be looking forward to. Hopefully the fans are. It's going to be a nice hot day, so listen, get down and support the lads, make some noise, and hopefully we get the 3 points.
That's brilliant. Cheers. Thanks for your time tonight, Lee. Thank you.